Hi, and welcome to our BACE holidays changes for summer 2022 onwards webinar update for Young Barnet Foundation members who are providing to the BACE holidays programme. Thank you to those who've attended and to those who are watching this back in order to get up to speed on some of the small changes that are going to be going forward from summer over the next couple of years with BACE. So firstly, a thank you to everybody who has delivered to date. There's been some really great projects and I managed to get out and see some of them. So thank you for that and keep up the great work. Just as a quick recap, I'm sure most of you who are here or watching back are aware, but HAF is the holiday activities with food. It's a governmental programme run by the Department for Education, and in Barnet we are working in partnership with the council and especially Family Services Department to put on HAF in what is branded in Barnet as BACE holidays. So you've probably seen the logo about, and this will be being plastered all over Barnet in the next couple of months in order to drive up numbers of attendees, which is great. In order to apply for the funding through Young Barnet Foundation, we're running it through our Space to Grow grants programme. The summer programme is now live for all applications and can be found on the website link there, which is Space to Grow 24. We now also have a dedicated HAF page, which has a lot of resources, updated information, places where you can find all the training, and a lot of resources which assist with the nutritional education and staff training, etc. So if you've not checked it out, we're pulling it all into that one space. And we also now have a dedicated HAF email. All inquiries can go to the HAF email. You can still use the grants at email for sort of technical questions around the grants, but actually general HAF inquiries can all go there. Sadly, we've just lost Bo, our HAF coordinator, but between Neil, myself, and to a degree some of the rest of the team and Janet, we will be ensuring in the short term that all the queries and etc. are covered, but going forward we will be replacing a HAF coordinator who will be your main point of contact. So just again a reiteration that this programme is for children on free school meals. Ideally 100% should be children on free school meals, but the government are allowing you to hit a minimum threshold of 85%. You will now need to let us know how you're collecting that information, be it a tick box on your application form, previous information you already hold, etc. But we have to report back to DfE on how that is, how we know that these young people are eligible. And the other 15% should fit the criteria that the DfE have made available. And again, all that information is available in the documentation that is surrounding the grants program and the eligibility criteria document, etc. The basic premise is that it should be for summer 4x4x4, which is 4 hours over 4 days of 4 weeks is the minimum. Please excuse me. We are happy to be a little bit flexible with that in regard to how you split the weeks and the days. But please, if you're going to do something that's not 4x4x4, that you contact us and speak to us and get approval. Again, we've managed to secure the rate at the same as last year of £19 per person per day. There had been talk that potentially that would be reduced, but we've managed to secure it at £19 per person per day, and by completing the spreadsheet that will answer it. That will calculate your grant award, and it should include the hot meal for that price. If you cannot produce the food yourself, we do have a centralized supplier who supply all the private providers that the council are bringing in for their sites, so we can take off £3.10 per day per person and make sure that a hot meal is delivered to you. In addition, we are looking at trying to supply additional fruit and food and breakfast snacks as well. That's all going on in the background, and we hope to be able to confirm that, but there is no guarantee. And the other bit is to remind you that there should be within each week, there should be some time dedicated to nutritious education. That can be fairly light touch. It's not the whole point of the premise of the the project is that it should be fun activities. It's not meant to be structured learning, but within it there should be some stuff around nutritious education. So it could be that it's chopping up carrots, and it could be that it's making hummus. It could be just looking at posters and doing some fun activities. It could be that you've got relevant posters, etc., up or on the walls around the room. But it's just part of, obviously, the premise of this project is that it should be some nutritious education. And the other thing that isn't listed here, which there should be, is the interaction with the parents and support for the parents. So we are putting together some additional support packs of information of where parents can go if they need to be signposted to additional supports, both council and non-council sort of statutory services. But yeah, it could be that you do a drop-in session at the end of the week. It could be a coffee morning with with the parents. But it's just, again, it's just to interact with the parents and to, again, try to impart knowledge and support for those parents who may need it. The big change is around payments. Every council is dealing with this, and every area of the country is dealing with it differently. But the council at the moment, and have been paying their private providers based on attendees, we are going to have to shift slightly to that model in order to ensure that we get as many places across the borough as possible. We will be paying 85% up front. The amount that you're awarded will then be recalculated based on your monitoring and evaluation data. And we will then, so it is payment on the number of attendees now, this is not capacity, but as you'll see in a second, we're going to try to help support you to hit your capacity or even overachieve. And we're basically saying also that you can make up to 120% of your requested capacity before you need to come back to us, and we will can be worked in as part of the award recalculation. So for example, if you're saying that you think realistically you'll get 50 people, but actually during the booking process you know that you could fit in 60 people, and you start hitting numbers of 58 to 60 people every day, that's absolutely fine, because it will be within the additional 20% threshold. If you start thinking during the booking process that you're going to go over that amount, we ask you just to let us know, and then at that stage we can look to recalculate it and confirm to you whether we can afford additional funding if you go over that. But what we're asking you basically, when in the application process, to be realistic. We know that sometimes you've got capacity for 60, but you're only seeing coming through the door 45 or 50 on as average. So actually, let's award you that, but have the capability to increase that amount for you. We want you as members to get as much money to cover this project as possible, but obviously there's only a finite amount, and we're doing this £19 flat fee rather than doing submissions each time on budgets, etc. So we just had to work a way that's going to be best for you. We want you to, as we say, to get as much money as possible. We're not looking to try and reclaim stuff, but also if for reasons we're not hitting the capacity targets, then those spaces could be being filled elsewhere in the borough. So we've got to make this change to the payment system. But we will be looking to ensure that you get that final 15% or the recalculation as quickly as possible on the submission of your M&E at the end of the project. So yeah, again, it's just to make the money go further, but also to make sure that you guys are all fairly recompensed for the great work that you do. Filling the capacity. So we appreciate that all of a sudden people are going, well, you know, if we don't get capacity, we're suddenly going to lose the amount of funding that we've been awarded. But there's a push by the council to do some improved advertising. There's going to be lots of additional posters around the borough, in the bus stops, in magazines, etc. Now there's trying to get this balance between spending money on the communications and the budgeting rather than it going to the frontline delivery. But there is going to be an improved advertising campaign, including making it really clear that these places are free. So yeah, there's going more information into the schools. All of your, as Young Barnet Foundation providers through Space to Grow, you'll also have your projects listed on the main council booking website. So parents who are looking for BACE will be able to see that you are there and available. For the private providers, they go through an online booking system within the council. We've looked at that and trialed it out. Some of the members have used it in the past, and as a non-council provider, it's quite tricky and difficult. So what we're saying is actually you need to make a contact detail available so that people can contact you to book directly with you. It keeps you guys in control of those bookings, and that could be an email, could be a phone number, could be a booking system on your own websites. We don't want it to be onerous for you, but obviously we just need to find capacity. If you genuinely feel you're going to take 50 places and you're at capacity, then you could have a link through to a web page that says you're already fully booked, etc. But it's just making sure that there is in theory, a method for people to make contact with you. A slight change also is a daily submission of numbers. This is something that we're aware of happens both within the private providers, within the council and elsewhere. We're going to ask you just to be sending in either a text message or a WhatsApp to a dedicated number every day. One of our admin team will keep an eye on it, and it's basically to help you that if for some reason you're massively under capacity, we can, through some advertising with the council, through their mailing list, etc., try to find those additional spaces to fill them for you. We're not necessarily going to be that day or the next day, but over a 4-week period, if for some reason there's a real gap in your capacity, hopefully we can fill it for you. And as I say, we're letting you guys keep control with the direct booking with you, and to be best for you to manage those booking systems. We've also improved the training. Training is free for you as BACE deliveries. There's a 2-day first aid course. There's only 9 places available for that. That's in early June. If you're interested, you go to the website and reply using the relevant information on there. There's also some mental health first aid training, a 1-day course on there. There's a challenging behaviour, food safety, hygiene, which you'll need if you're handling food, and there's a number of other training. The dates in most cases are finalised, but they're all going to be mid to late June, predominantly through into early July, to give you, your staff, time to upskill and to take on those trainings to make sure you meet the minimum requirements. But also remember that this training is useful for you in all your other wider work, so feel free to jump on and to get your staff there. It's there. It's in a lot of cases really good quality training at incredibly discounted rates. Mental health first aid sometimes are £300-400 a day for that course. So it's some real benefits of being a HAF provider and a BACE provider in Barnet. All the information is on the website, and we will continually update as dates get finalised. We will update that, so it can be you click through to a PDF, that document will be updated, so keep an eye on it as we go. SEND provision, special educational needs. There are a couple of specialised providers who are solely doing SEND, and for those we deal with them slightly differently and directly with the council, but there is a triage service. We know that you will obviously be asking your parents to identify if their children need additional support, but we have been made aware that in the past young people have turned up and actually they probably do need some more specialists, not necessarily one-to-one, but small group support. There is a triage service available to you. This will be made, the details will be made fully available in due course, but you can basically call up, say that you need some additional support, and as long as there is availability, which there should be, that you will get somebody sent down within a couple of hours to support. So that's there for you to use. In addition, if the parent is on has a personal allowance for their young person, they can we want them to be part of the main BACE program, they can use their personal allowance to request additional support, and there is a BACE discount. So the parents will should understand how and where to go for that, but we will make that information available to you. But it's something to get parents, so that you don't have to go through the process of trying to use the triage service. You can get the parent to request and use their personal allowance for dedicated support. Volunteers, we're improving the recruitment process. We're working with Volunteering Barnet on that at the moment, and we're also providing you some clear information for the delivery organisations on how to use volunteers. We're hoping that will increase the number. Volunteers shouldn't be used as part of your ratio of adults to parents, but also for additional support around the place. They obviously can add real benefit. There's a number of training, etc., that volunteers can be put on, and we said so they're the icing on the cake rather than the cake, to use a phrase that Jan, our CEO, uses a lot. But yeah, a great a great opportunity to supplement your support, especially maybe if you're going out on day trips or off-site to parks, etc. If you need some additional support, then it could well be you don't need to take a volunteer necessarily for the whole period. There could be specific days that you need those volunteers. So that wraps up the sort of the key changes. They're not huge, they're not astronomical changes. The same premise of good nutritious food as part of a fun activity that hasn't changed, but really it's just open to the floor if there are any additional questions.
Hi, Pete. Good morning.
Morning.
I have some questions actually. You have mentioned during the presentation, is it must to do the program 4 weeks? I just want to understand that part.
So the DFE's requirements are the 4x4x4 model. So it should be 4 weeks. So that's 16 days. But if you turned around to us and said, you know what, we need to do it slightly differently, we want to do three weeks of 5 days, etc., we may be able to accommodate that. But you know the requirements come from the DFE through to us. You know we're not making the rules, so we will look if there are extenuating circumstances where you're saying we want to do 3 weeks of 5 days, etc. We can't do the others because of staffing or whatever. Then we would rather there was provision than not provision. So we will take each basic case on a case-by-case basis, or example, if you want to split those 16 days over 5 weeks for some reason, again, something that we could look at, but really we want a minimum of 16 days because that meets the requirements of the Department for Education. Okay.
We also have an idea, and I would like to ask you about this one. We would like to split the groups, smaller groups between age 6 and 11 or 12. One group, which is the morning time, and to have the sessions in the 4 hours and to finish their session with the lunch, and higher groups, the age 13 and above, and I mean up to 16, the afternoon group. So we would like to also start them with the lunch and then conduct the program. So if there is such a possibility, if we would like to do the 2 groups in a day, and in the same day 2 groups, maybe totally 2 weeks. So can it be calculated as a?
So it should be 4. You should be running them all, but as 2 projects. I know there's an overlay, so you should be doing 4 weeks for the younger groups and 4 weeks for the older groups, but you can apply twice basically, and do 2 different age groups. So yes, that is possible. But you were saying potentially you wanted to do it over 2 weeks, so maybe we need to have a conversation offline from here. But really, ideally, you can do that and have to run 2 different age groups, and basically you do run it as, we will put it through as 2 separate projects in effect, and you'll be funded for both. So yes, that is possible to do a younger and an older age group. But if you're thinking about the number of weeks, then we probably need to have a conversation offline.
Okay, then. That's it. I don't have any other question actually.
Okay, no problem. Jan, our CEO, has a hand up and wishes to speak.
Hi, everybody. And apologies if I missed this. The DFE and partners quite rightly are getting really hot on free school meals, because there is a borough allowance of having up to 15% of children not on free school meals, but they must be disadvantaged. So if it's any other group that you can, or young people that you recognize as disadvantaged, that's fine. But some of our returns aren't showing the 85 and the 15%. It is going to be really challenged if the children aren't on free school meals, because if we are allowing children that can afford free activities elsewhere to come onto these schemes, then we're actually taking a place of a child that could be going hungry. So if you need help to fill your slots, then we, as Pete said earlier, we can absolutely help you do that. But we have to see this. It's not a universal provision. If you want to run alongside a universal provision and charge people that can afford it to come, that's fine. but it can't be supplemented using this funding. Does that all make sense? We have to drive, especially now with the cost of living crisis, we have to really encourage free school meal children to attend. And whereas in the past, we didn't want it to be seen as a them and an us scenario, almost like, you know, we're poor, so we have to go to it. That's why we would love for provision to run side by side, so it is more universal. But our challenge is, let's feed the hungry children of Barnet, and there will be hungry children as the pressures of holidays reaches our families.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask one more thing about the application and the registration process for the participants. Usually we have our own system that we have the records of the Easter program and even Christmas program. We share the advertisements with our database with the email addresses of the previous participants. And definitely I'm expecting to have how many free school meal users will be participating to the program beforehand. And if there will be extra spaces, so that time we should contact with you to fill those spaces, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah. So you'll be able to, if you have additional spaces, then that's where advertising on the council page, where sort of the booking page that they're running, should drive additional support to you. But again, we will, if you actively need an additional 10 people, etc., we can work with the council to try and make sure we're signposting young people to your provision if you've got the capacity. Yes.
Okay. And also for the registration process for the half, can we use our own system as well?
Yes, so you can, the purpose is because organizations, the feedback we'd got from speaking to some is that they preferred to use their own system and not the council system. So the council will advertise that you have a project and the dates and when the times, but they will then, we will get signposted through directly to your booking system. So your website or a telephone number, however you wish to deal with it. So it's giving you the freedom to keep in control of that.
Okay, that's great.
Otherwise, brilliant. Cheers. Harriet.
Hi, morning. So just a few questions. So the first one was the the council booking system.
Yep.
If we ask just, and we didn't do it last year, but is it a requirement? Do we have to complete the council form online, or can we just do the same as we did last year and then just do everything through our own system? Because we do, my worry is that last year we undercalculated how many young people we would get, and we were over. So and for the last few half terms and Easter holidays and things like that, we haven't really gone down the advertising route, because we actually have quite a large number of young people that attend, and we don't actually want to get any more, because we'll have to turn some young people away. So is that a requirement that we have to complete that?
No, so what we want is for your project to be listed on there. But if you're if you believe you're at full capacity, we can say this project is already at full capacity, and so they won't be able to contact you. So there'll be basically the sort of the holding page for the council's booking system will have all the provision, both Young Barnet Foundation members and the council provision listed. Those who wish to pick a site run by the council's private providers will go through the online booking system and book. For everybody else, they will be dealt with, they'll come directly to you. Now, if you're fully booked, we can put fully booked at capacity, etc. So they know the project's happening, because it's just a piece of advertising to show that there is a real wide ranging amount of services and options across the borough. But no, we're allowing you guys to keep control of your bookings. So if you don't need to use the council booking system, if somebody wanted to use the council booking system, they can, but it's quite convoluted for a non-council provider, basically for the council, for an external third party to use. So it's easier for you all to keep your own booking systems and keep your control of that. So no, it's very much, if you're at capacity, you're telling us 50, you've got a capacity of 50 people, you think you're going to fill 50 people, we will list the fact that your project is happening, but we won't, we will say that it's full and that they can't contact you directly to book.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. And that's when I'm saying I'm specifically talking about Graham Park. So Graham Park, but probably Stone Grove, there might be some wiggle room there, but definitely not Graham Park. Also, you mentioned about the some delivery of fruit and veg. So last year I know that happened, and that was honestly, it was such a godsend for us. So is that definitely something that's going to be happening again this year? Because that was really, really brilliant.
We're hoping to. We're looking at budgets. We're looking at trying to find sponsors, speaking to supermarkets, etc., what they could donate to. We can do that. So we're looking at, it's all being looked at the moment. We're hoping that, yes, again, like last summer, that there will be some delivery of fruit and vegetables and or additional food that the young people can take home to their families as well. But at least the fruit, yes, we are working hard on trying to make that happen, because I know it was something with the feedback from Easter was actually it was really missed compared to last year. So yeah, it's something that's being worked on.
Yeah, that's really great. I'll try not to chew your ear off too much. You know, the triage service as well that you mentioned. So so how does that work? Is that through Young Barnet Foundation, or is that separate?
No, it's a council third-party provider, and once it's all the finer details are all finalised, you're basically provided with a telephone number that you can ring up and say, we've just, two kids have turned up who we weren't aware a sort of no SEND needed. We really could do with an extra pair of hands down here, please, or a specialist who knows how to look after a child with ADHD or autism or whatever it might be, and therefore we can then they will then send somebody down, ideally sort of to give you that additional support, someone who's got that expertise.
Okay, and just off the back of that, so what if you have a young person who doesn't have maybe like an EHCP plan or hasn't got a specific diagnosis, but maybe mum might be working is also working with the school to get a kind of diagnosis, would they still be happy to support even though they're not haven't?
My understanding is yes, and you use the number and speak to the organisation in advance, and they will be able to talk about it. But if you've got a young person in that situation, let's have a conversation offline and we'll try and find you that additional support.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. It's we're here to help. So yeah, and that's why these sessions are great. And please do, if you've got queries and questions, the team are here to support. So that's to everybody is to contact us. Jan, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just wanted to come in and say that if there's any possibility you're going to be under, it is worth getting up your adverts early on the website of the council. And as Pete said, it can be turned off, that you'll no longer take booking. Harriet, you mentioned about maybe having to turn people away because obviously you will have a certain capacity. Please refer them to the BACE website because there will be stuff going on locally so that everybody has that opportunity. We are missing the 12 plus, so engagement, so 12 to 16-year-olds aren't engaging with the project as well. So looking at specific provision for them, and that one-to-one support, it will be easier if they have a plan, and it's not for milder conditions or just bad behaviour, but it is definitely, as Pete says, worth ringing to give them support, but that is a third party and it's outside our control. But yeah, that's and the last thing is for extra food. I'll ask Pete to send round to all of the providers. Felix have come back with an offer of providing surplus food to groups over the holiday period. But I think they would only deliver on one day and you don't know what you're going to get and you have to be able to deal with it. And I think Harriet's used to what Fuse can or not, who's used to what Felix can deliver, but there is an application process which Pete will send around. And I think we've only got about 10 spaces of organisations that can receive the holiday activity support from Felix. So yeah, if you're interested in that, we can send that round as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. hopefully that's been useful and beneficial and answered some of those sort of small queries that you'd got. Yeah, please do reach out. I say half@youngbarnetfoundation.org.uk is the email. And before I wrap up, Harriet, you've got another question.
Yeah, sorry, just before you go, again with the parents, you know, you spoke about you want us to do some kind of engagement, maybe like a coffee morning or something like that. Is that, you know, the nutritional stuff, you said you would love that to be minimum once a week. So what's the engagement with the parents? Like, can it just be like maybe 2 or 3 like specific parent engagement activities, or is there like a minimum number of things that you want, or should it just be a daily conversation that we're having with parents?
Pete, do you want me to come in on that?
I was going to say, Jan's probably better to answer that, but it can be fairly broad and fairly varied, I believe, but I'll let Jan answer the query.
So it could be, we are talking to Boost about sending advisors down. So it could be people wanting to ask. So I think it's about using the engagement to engage parents. So we're engaging their children. Actually, how do we support parents? So it is about how do we signpost them to other support that's around. So it's not just the children that we're looking after their health and well-being, because there's quite often the stressed parents behind that child, especially with the cost of living crisis that we've got at the moment. So, you know, it could be about talking to Boost or Family Services about, you know, one day in the summer having a benefits advisor in the afternoon somewhere to do a talk to young or to parents. So it's about thinking about, you know, your parents best, what do they need, and could there be some support? Could it be that you do a signposting service, that you set up a board and that you have leaflets from the 0 to 19 hubs to show what's around? So I think it is about using the platform you have and the engagement you have to do that extra piece of wider support with parents. So we are talking to Fuse and Family Services about, you know, whether they could do drop-ins, but with obviously with the Ukraine crisis, we're also trying to deal with Ukraine refugees and the resettlement. I think we've got about 700 now in the borough, or certainly there's 700 that has been approved. So there's lots going on, and we have been having conversations with Boost. We just haven't got to that final, are they going to be available? But I think if you're interested, let us know. And then we can always say to Boost, is there possible that you can get one of your staff down at some point, either to do a coffee morning with parents, or, you know, whatever your engagement is, let's piggyback off that rather than creating something new.
Thank you, Jan. And I think from the thumb up that Harriet, that's obviously helped you out there, so that's great. Okay, well, listen, thank you very much all for your time. As I said, please do reach out for the team if you need any more help and assistance. The sooner you get your applications in, the sooner we can turn them around and confirm them to you. We're sort of dealing with them on an ad hoc basis, or once a week as they come in. But yeah, please do reach out if you need any help. So thank you very much, and yeah, have a great Thursday.
Have a nice day.
Bye all.
All right, thank you.
Have a good day all.